Well, guys, here it is. This is the last top 10 episode on Screw Attack. I don't have any script before me right now. All I want to say right now is thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching this show for 10 years. But the show will go on. Don't forget that. I'm eulogizing this thing like it's gone forever. It's not. You can go over to youtube.com/no or the no.tv from this point forward and continue to see me counting 10 things for you every week. And I will see you there. For every unique and amazing game that comes out, there's like 50 turd quality ones that come out in that same year, and 2018 was no exception. These are the games that sucked more than any other this year. Hey, I'm Nervous Nick for Screw Attack's Top 10 Worst Games of 2018.
Number 10.
So, the real-world politics behind the current state of Metal Gear are stupid, and the way that series creator Hideo Kojima was kicked out of Konami was even more enraging. Which is why Metal Gear Survive always felt like it was done in bad taste from the moment it was announced. Metal Gear made a name for itself by being all about stealth. Everybody knows this. But as Metal Gear Survive's name would make incredibly obvious, that's not the focus this time around. This one is part survival game, but also part tower defense, with only the vaguest hint of stealth elements. If that already sounds nothing like a Metal Gear game, well, the story is about a nameless soldier who gets sucked into another dimension where zombies are all over the place. You know, exactly the kind of game you make to assure longtime fans that the series is in good hands. Metal Gear Survive was a mediocre mishmash that disappointed even further because of the Metal Gear legacy it claims to follow after. Not that anyone's surprised.
Number 9.
This is one of the bigger personal disappointments on this list. The first time I saw Morphe's Law for Nintendo Switch, I thought it was a pretty clever looking game, like something that Peter Molyneux might come up with. It's a team-based FPS where as you shoot the enemy's body parts, it increases the size of the same body part on your character. So bigger legs let you jump better, bigger chest equals more health, but if you stay small, you might be able to escape the bigger guys. Sounds pretty clever, right? Well, before you go fall in love with Morphe's Law, it's more confusing in practice than anything else. And, more importantly, it doesn't make the game more fun. Plus, the more you play Morphe's Law, the more everything outside that main hook feels derivative of other games. There's a dose of Splatoon in there, with a dash of Overwatch, and even bits of Call of Duty thrown in just because they could. And since it's out on Switch now and PC in the near future, you'd be better off just playing those other games instead. Morphe's Law was a creative idea and all, but better luck next time.
Number 8.
We all thought it was a joke. We all thought Richard LaRuina, the pickup artist, couldn't possibly be serious. Yet here he was in 2018 trying to teach us all state-of-the-art seduction secrets. Play Super Seducer for long enough, and you really get the feeling that this dude is actually dead serious about all of the tips he gives you. Not only does that make it way funnier, it also makes it that much more of a failure. Like, really, dude? Really? Calling her a baby lamb was the right choice?
You know what? You're just adorable. Look at you, like a little baby lamb.
Oh, thank you.
In fact.
This game is like the $13 equivalent to those try not to cringe challenge videos on YouTube. And listen, I've spent my entire life being awkward and had little to no luck with dating for the longest time. But even I wound up happily married to a woman so beyond my wildest dreams, and I did it without you, Richard! Okay, you guys want some real advice? First of all, always have follow-up questions to show that you're interested in what the other person is saying. 2, don't settle for someone who doesn't see you for how incredibly valuable you truly are. And 3, don't buy Super Seducer. That's the real stuff. You can have that for free.
Number 7.
How on earth does an established and beloved series like Fallout end up on 2018's worst list? By now, I think we all come to expect Bethesda games to be generally buggy. In years past, we've been mostly fine to turn a blind eye to them because they were never enough to take away from the amazing adventures that lied in store for us. But in Fallout 76, there was no amazing adventure lying in store for us. And there were still tons of bugs. On one hand, you might call a Fallout MMO-style game with no NPCs an ambitious experiment, but on the other, you also might say that that was an obviously bad decision that deserved to backfire as hard as it did. At best, it could have turned out like Sea of Thieves, where every encounter with another player is a tense friend or foe situation, but in practice, that just makes Fallout 76's world even more barren than even the driest wasteland should ever be. Maybe in 2019 this will become a case of No Man's Sky, or shoot, we'll continue the comparison Sea of Thieves, where the launch leaves a lot to be desired, but it gets updated into something better over time. And if that's the case, when can we get past this whole games as a service mentality? I kinda hate it.
Number 6.
You're watching Top 10 Worst Games of 2018, and this next game is called Agony. The jokes write themselves. On the plus side, Agony nails the atmosphere of being in hell pretty well, I'd say. Piles of flesh drop from the ceiling, you swim through rivers of blood, and still breathing impaled corpses are all over the place. Yeah, it's pretty gross. Unfortunately, Agony also plays like a game that they would force you to play in hell, thanks to unforgiving checkpoints and repetitive gameplay. You're gonna be putting a lot of skulls on things, so have fun with that. But maybe worst of all, it does not give you nearly enough player direction. Without giving you any hints, it expects you to know that after you die, you can possess other lost souls, but only if they don't have bags on their heads? How's anyone gonna figure that out? It's kind of an important mechanic to teach. Agony might be the prettiest and shiniest turd on this list, but it's still a turd all the same.
Number 5.
Telltale's series getting canned was not the only tragedy that happened to The Walking Dead this year. As a huge fan of Left 4 Dead, Overkill's The Walking Dead sounded like it was right up my alley. 4-player, first-person co-op where everyone's got their own unique skills? Sounds like a pretty good time to me. But whereas Left 4 Dead constantly kept things fresh with randomized elements and fun set pieces and unique special infected types, Overkill's The Walking Dead mostly just feels monotonous and unpolished. It's to the point where the positives in this game get pretty much completely drowned out. And how do you make a co-op game in 2018 and not include voice chat? Ugh, if you had any passing interest in Overkill's The Walking Dead and you were wanting to get it on PC or Xbox One, just get one of the Left 4 Dead games instead. It's like 5 times the fun for a fraction of the price.
Number 4.
So that modern trilogy of Planet of the Apes movies was pretty good, right? What if we took those movies and made them into a horrible rail shooter from the 90s, only it's slow and boring, and just for an extra layer of crappiness, it's in VR. And boy, when I tell you this game is slow, I mean it is slow. God, just hurry up. Crisis on the Planet of the Apes feels like what would happen if an actual real-world ape got a hold of automatic weapons and clumsily tried to wield them. Hilariously, that same stupid ape somehow mows down hundreds of armed soldiers. Crisis on the Planet of the Apes' controls are so unbelievably terrible, even by VR standards. And they're even more frustrating because all of these enemies would be so easy to shoot in a competently made game. On top of that, the checkpoint system is just horrendous, something that becomes all the more glaring when you get stuck or crash your game and you lose tons of progress. I can't remember the last time I got this fired up at a $15 game purchase.
Number 3.
The gimmick of making a game about an impaired protagonist is one that I think is worth exploring. So far, we've had the horror game Perception, where you assume the role of a blind woman. Beyond Eyes was a gorgeous-looking indie game about a blind girl. And then, The Quiet Man. Instead of using deafness in an interesting way, it only makes The Quiet Man more frustrating. In a 3-hour game that feels like it's 25% in-engine cutscenes and 25% live-action cutscenes for some reason, it sure would be nice to know what anybody is saying. The main character seems to know what's up, so why can't we? If you don't get bored slogging your way through the basic as all get out beat 'em up segments, you can unlock a New Game Plus version which has all the dialogue reinserted.
I can't. Why can't I hear? What? Why can't I hear? Why? Why?
Okay, so in the movie industry, there's this process called automatic dialogue replacement, or ADR for short. See, when you're on a film shoot, sometimes you can't get good quality audio, so you gotta re-record it later and insert it back into the scene. But you gotta make sure the performances match, otherwise it'll be really distracting and obvious that you just used ADR. It's just a fun little factoid I felt like sharing with you guys. It's totally unrelated to this game. Sorry, I'll move on now.
Number 2.
With its fast-paced Hunger Games-inspired gameplay, the original The Culling was a popular enough game. But instead of supporting it post-launch like they did throughout early access, they ditched it 2 months later and started making a sequel that nobody asked for. And it was another Battle Royale game. Politics behind The Culling 2 aside, the game itself was so bad that the developers pulled the game off Steam a week after release. In a world where PUBG, Fortnite, and freaking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure are taking the Battle Royale path, any other game that dares to tackle the genre needs to do something to stand out. The Culling 2 did absolutely nothing, and it managed to look uglier than PUBG if that was even possible. At least the previous game had some kind of identity. But if there's good news, even the dev team agreed that this game was a bad choice. In fact, they literally ditched The Culling 2 to go back to working on the first one. There's no way that's not some kind of industry first.
It's number 1.
If the final top 10 on Screw Attack is gonna be about crappy games of 2018, then there's only one game that could take our number 1 spot. For as long as Screw Attack has been conquering the internet, there has existed a fierce rivalry the likes of which mankind has yet to fathom. I'm not talking about me versus Ben in the Salsa Challenge. I'm not even talking about that time Soulja Boy ducked us in a gaming competition. Yes, that's real. I'm talking about our eternal struggle against the worst game ever made, Shaq Fu. After a sequel somehow crowdfunded almost $500,000, we dreaded the year that Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn, finally dared to show its face. And I'll say this much, it definitely lived up to the original's legacy. This time around, Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn is leagues more self-aware and tongue-in-cheek, but that does nothing to make it more palatable. Yeah, I know they say that if you wink at the audience enough, they'll accept anything, but A Legend Reborn is like a social experiment designed to see how far that saying can really stretch. The only thing more repetitive than the overly simplistic gameplay is the endless references. References to Shaq's shoe size, references to Kazam, references to Icy Hot, references to Antoine Dodson, references. There are so many pop culture references that DreamWorks Animation Studios is getting jealous. Even though I'll agree that in a game like this, jokes are better than taking it seriously, that doesn't just magically make all the monotony okay. Worst of all, it's a digital game. That means we can't continue our crusade to destroy every copy of Shaq Fu anymore. But believe me, A Legend Reborn deserves it all the same.
Well, I don't really have any prepared words here because it's a couple of days or so after we recorded the intro to this final Screw Attack Top 10, but I just wanted to take this usual secret number 11 spot to just tell you guys, every single one of you, how much this whole Screw Attack journey has meant to me. It's changed me for the better, and I have all you to thank for that. So I'll see you guys over at the No. The journey continues. This is not where the adventures end, and thank you for all your years of support, and I look forward to entertaining you guys for years and years to come. Love you all.